one popular philosopher said that if the law is ruling, then it is God ruling. But if it is man ruling, then it is the beast that is ruling. If we allow the law to be applied in the society, then it means that there is going to be order, and there's going to be justice, there's going to be peace. Do you know that even churches are companies? But if the laws don't apply to me at a point, then how then will I know how it feels to make laws to apply to? So there is a law called the Incorporated Private Partnership Act, which governs partnerships in Ghana. First of all, without an agreement, nothing can be enforced. But an agreement is deduced in a lot of ways. So it's either...
I welcome you to another edition of the Second Street Avenue. Once again, my name is Rudolph Amwakwakono. Stick and stay as we delve deeper onto today's episode. At the background, when we were having a conversation, he seemed to know what he is and who he was. So I'll allow him to introduce himself. Can you please tell us who you are?
Hello everyone. Hi Rudolph.
Hi Poco.
My name is Chrissy Esuman Poco. I'm a lawyer and a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK. And for a fun fact, I'm a staunch Real Madrid fan. Ala Madrid.
Okay, so before we actually even delve deep into the main conversation, for the young person who is watching this episode, I want you to run us through the education, the basic education that you need to become a lawyer. Sometimes it gets a little bit clumsy. People don't know, okay, so after this, what do I do? Take me through that. Okay,
so basically, I think people would want to know how to become a lawyer in Ghana, probably through which, so the stages of education you have to go through. So I'll start from, let's say, the senior high school level. There's a misconception that if you want to become a lawyer, you have to read general arts. It's a misconception. Yeah.
I am sorry to interrupt you. Guys, do you know that when we were in high school, I switched from being a science student to an art student just because I wanted to be a lawyer. Is that a misconception really?
Yes, it is. It is because the law profession is a profession on its own. It has its own rudiments and is approached differently from other disciplines. And so you wouldn't need any requirements from the high school in terms of you having read the arts to be able to read law at the university level. In my class at the university, I had people from the sciences, people who did science, people who did home economics, people who did visual arts. So far as they're able to meet the requirements of the university, which is getting good grades in terms of your core subjects in the SHS level, and as well as the electives, you are good to go. Using the University of Ghana as a case study, I think law has one of the very strict cutoff points. I think it's about 06 or 07. So it means you have to really perform very well to get into that. But you have to be someone who is able to think analytically. So they are going to look out for that from your results from high school. So that's the first point. You don't need to have read general arts to be able to read Bachelor's of Law, which is the LLB program at the university.
When you read courses like general arts, some of our electives are geography, economics, government and literature.
Yes.
Government and economics are intertwined one way or the other. Don't you think that people who come into the profession with fundamental knowledge in this area do better than the people who came with nothing at all?
Well, not necessarily. Because when you look at the scope of government at high school, it's just an introduction into the framework of governance. So you are taught what is power, what is authority. You are introduced to the basic stuff of governance. And that is knowledge that can be acquired by anyone, actually. Yes. But what I think is the very basic thing that anyone who wants to venture into law must have is the ability to be analytical. So you should be able to make certain sound reasoning, and you should be able to analyze situations. And so for me, using myself, I didn't even study government. I did economics, elective maths, geography, and French. So, if government was a very needed course, then I wouldn't be here. I think my background from elective maths even helped me, because with elective maths, you know that you are supposed to be quite analytical about things, follow a particular way of thinking and all that. Yeah, so I don't think that studying a particular elective at the high school level can influence your approach to studying law later in life. I think that whatever you studied, you should be able to speak to it, own it, and also you should be able to determine your judgment, your ability to give sound judgment from your studies. So basically that's it.
Okay, so after high school, then what's the next step?
So after high school, if you make it into the university, then you'll be reading the Bachelor of Laws program, and there you go through the various substantive law courses. So the law program is divided into two. There is the procedural law and the substantive law. So substantive law has to do with the rights and the rules that govern the rights of people and what people can do in terms of different situations. But the procedural law is how the substantive law can be applied. So let's say in the law courts, when you go to the law courts, how do we apply the substantive law there? So that is the procedural law.
Okay.
So basically at the university, you're introduced to the substantive law, the law of contracts, the law of torts, constitutional law, land law, a lot of substantive laws are introduced to you there. When you are done, in Ghana, you'd have to pass an entrance exams before you get into the next stage of the law education, which is studying the professional law course. And that is run by the Ghana School of Law here. So the entrance exams is going to test your knowledge on the basic substantive law courses that you were introduced to in the university. It's a one-time paper. If you pass the paper and you are cleared by the GLC, which is the General Legal Council, is the body that regulates the legal profession and legal education in Ghana. So if you are cleared by them, then you are admitted into the Ghana School of Law to learn the procedural law for 2 years. I have to chip in that the university time period for studying law is 4 years. So you do the 4 years there, then you do 2 years at the Ghana School of Law. You have to pass all 10 courses at the Ghana School of Law.
10?
Yes, there are 10 courses at the Ghana School of Law. You have to pass them.
I think that's why Vanessa is slow to admit that she will be a lawyer one day, because you need to say it with care, because
of course
the lies are really thin.
Yes.
Guys, if you don't know Vanessa is, you can't see here, but she's with us.
Okay.
So I think that's why she said this that way. You need to be very careful.
Yeah, you have to be
because when you go and say somewhere that next year becoming a lawyer, and by the time the results come, it doesn't look like what it is, and then there's a problem.
Even after the results, you have to be someone of proven character. So you actually apply to the General Legal Council to be called to the bar. That is why it's called a call to the bar. So the fact that you've passed the 10 papers does not necessarily make you fit to be called to the bar. You put in an application, then on the day, they call you to the bar.
On the day they call you to the bar?
Yes. So there are instances in the past where people had passed their courses, but on the day they weren't called to the bar for one reason or the other.
Yeah, I think I am aware of a couple of them that I wouldn't want to talk about on the show because it's too sensitive. But if you know whoever I'm talking about, I'm a proud stand of that person. If she's going to see this one day, I am proud of you and whatever you are doing, and I wish you the very best. By the way, Vanessa, I wish you all the best in your legal education. I hope you make it throughout and become a very good lawyer. But whoever we know, we all know you are talking about.
I mean, yes, of course.
I'm proud of you.
He's a lawyer now. So Yeah, even apart from her, there were people who were denied the call to the bar based on their outfit on the day. You know, as lawyers, we are supposed to present ourselves in a particular outfit. And in Ghana, it's very strict. You have to come with your wig, your gown. You have to be in your color, your babe, and all that.
All right.
Yes. If you are appearing before them and you are not properly dressed, if you don't meet the standard, you might be denied the call. So, I mean, just passing the exams is not an automatic ticket.
Okay.
To be called to the bar. Yes.
Would you say the process is rigorous?
Well,
if it is, is it worth it?
I think on that question, people have different opinions. Personally, I think that it's a bit too much, but it is not. I don't think it came about out of an ill intention. I say this because when you look at the legal practice and all that, lawyers come out as nobles in society. There's this perception about lawyers. And so I think the school and the entire process is to ensure that you indeed fit into the nobility that the society is going to bestow on you eventually. Yes. So we go through a process where certain things are instilled in you. So for instance, you have punctuality, integrity, and all these things. And some of these little things test your ability to, let's say, be punctual, to follow the rules, to stick by them, to be an object of the law and a subject of the law too.
What do you mean when you say an object of the law?
So an object of the law, as in you are being regulated by the law as a person. Do you get it? So when I say an object, the law applies to you. You don't only make the law, but the law applies to you.
It's a two-way thing.
Yes. So I'm studying to becoming a lawyer. But if the laws don't apply to me at a point, then how then will I know how it feels to make laws to apply to people?
Makes absolute sense.
Do you get it? So I think the school and the entire process would make you know how it feels to be on the other side.
All right.
When there are rules that are being applied on you. Yes. And it's a system that has been run for a very long time. And so I think it's just recently that certain things they are trying to adapt to the changing times. However, when it comes to the very principles that regulate the profession and the education, they are very strict on it. Yes, and I just hope that they would adapt to the changing times of doing things, because I mean the world is evolving, we are moving on and all that. Certain things can be relaxed in order to accommodate all of us. Yes.
And I think when you say things can be relaxed in order to accommodate people, it is not even in relation to the core of the practice. It is, I don't know, for lack of a better word, those petty things that do not really affect the practice.
Yes.
For instance, the outfits, the gown, the wig.
Yes.
Those ones, the ones I see in maybe, okay, we all have different jurisdictions, different locations, different countries. But these countries, people go to court and they look pretty regular, but they still deliver. The dressing does not entirely have an effect on
the practice,
the execution.
Yes, because even in Ghana, it would interest you to note that during the legal vacation, we are currently in the legal vacation. The legal year starts from, I think, the second week in October till somewhere the last week in, I think, July or August.
Do you guys have a calendar?
Yeah, so there's a legal calendar. Do you get it? Yes. Currently, we are in the legal vacation, but we still go to court. But in the legal vacation, the strict, we don't appear in the strict attire. You can go to court in a simple suit and with a tie, in a business suit with a tie. That's okay in the legal vacation. But when the vacation is over and the legal year starts, you are required to robe formally to court.
All right, amazing. The reason why I asked that particular question is because maybe there's somebody who is watching this episode who would want to go into the law profession, maybe an undergrad, somebody who is in school, they need to understand how these things work. They need to, it's information. When you get the right ones, you move correctly. But what's the difference between somebody who just did an LLB and somebody who was called to the bar? What can a graduate of just the LLB do? That's what can the one called to the bar do that's the person who just finished the LLB cannot do?
Okay, so first of all, the person called to the bar is a lawyer, but the one who has an LLB is not a lawyer. So the person called to the bar can represent someone in court and can represent someone in the capacity as a lawyer. But if you have an LLB is just like any other university certificate, a degree that you have in a particular field. So it is one of the requirements you need to becoming a lawyer. If you don't have an LLB, you cannot proceed to the professional school to eventually become a lawyer.
Okay.
So the LLB holder has one of the requirements to becoming a lawyer, but someone who has been called to the bar is a lawyer properly so called and can add Esquire to his or her name. But if you're an LLB holder, you can only add LLB, as you see people do. After they write their name, they just attach LLB to it. They can't change it to Esquire. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's delve deeper.
Yes.
The continent of Africa recently has seen a surge in entrepreneurship and business formations.
Yes.
Gradually, we are beginning to lean towards coming up with our own firms and stuff. I think this year I've heard of a Nigerian who has been able to raise 2 unicorns. So a unicorn is unicorn is a startup is worth 2 billion. Yes. It's worth $1 billion. A fund, yes. So, and that's pretty amazing.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's big motivation for a lot of people out there. But unfortunately, a lot of people have also lost funding and their capital just because they didn't understand the legal aspects of businesses. I want you to talk about the basic things that if you want to go into entrepreneurship or you want to start a business, the basic legal things that you need to know.
Okay. So if you are someone who is interested in starting up a business in Ghana, you have to understand the legal framework for running businesses in Ghana. For me, I hold the opinion that starting a business is like being on a journey. And for instance, if I want to, let's say, move from Accra to Kumasi, I can choose to go by flight. I can choose to go by bus. Can even drive myself there. Or let's say, hopefully, if there's a sea connecting
Accra to Kumasi,
I can go by.
I'll join you, my brother.
A ship.
Yeah, I'll join you.
Yeah. So on that journey, if you bring it to the legal space, you need a legal vehicle to go on that journey with. And in Ghana, you can do business in 3 ways. You are either a sole proprietor, that is, you are on your own, or you form a partnership, or you form a company. So these 3 vehicles are available for you to choose for your journey to becoming a business owner or to running the business. If you're a sole proprietor, it means that the business is you and you are the business. So you find a lot of people, maybe Mamieka Enterprise, Papa Jumo Enterprise. All these businesses are sole proprietorships. With that one, you and the business, there's no distinction. So you find this a lot when it comes to those who run Instagram sales and all those things. They are the business is them. So they can even be online and be dealing in business with other people. Unlike the sole proprietorship, the partnership is also a particular business setup where 2 or more people come together to form a business with the aim of making profit. And in Ghana, that particular business, if it's a partnership properly so called, must be incorporated under our laws. So there is a law called the Incorporated Private Partnership Act, which governs partnerships in Ghana. Yes. Before I move to a company, I would want to state that for the sole proprietorship, you don't necessarily have to incorporate it. But in Ghana, there is a law that permits you to register the name of the business that you are running. And this is because the sole proprietorship is not, as I said, a distinct entity from the owner. The owner is the business, but the law permits you to register the business name so that you have an exclusive right to that business name. Do you get it?
Yes.
Yes. Then lastly, there is the company. Now, companies are regulated by a law called the Companies Act and 2019 Act 992. And there are various forms of companies you can establish. Do you know that even churches are companies? Yes. So if you are someone out there and you want to establish a church, you'd have to set up a company. And it's called a company limited by guarantee.
A company limited by guarantee.
Yes.
I have two questions.
Yes.
One, how many of our churches are registered as businesses?
So, as I said, if you don't incorporate the church as a company, then it's not a church properly so called under our laws. Do you get it? You know, there are people who have formed prayer groups. That is different. But if you are running a church, so if you go to the Presby Church, the Presby Church is a company under our laws. The Catholic Church is a company under our laws. ICGC is a company under our laws. And that company is a form of company that is limited by guarantee. So there are certain people who have formed a pact that should this company or should this particular church get to a point where the church must, let's say, wind up. Mm-hmm. And when we say winding up, for the want of better words, let's say collapse, we agree that we would pay so and so amount to settle all the debts. Do you get it? Okay. So when it comes to churches do not run for the purpose of making profit. So we do not classify churches as entities that run businesses for making profit. If you look at the way churches are incorporated, as I earlier mentioned, they are incorporated by way of guarantee. Now the guarantee is just a pact that some people form that in the situation where the church is going to wind up, then they would come in and pay so and so amount to offset that particular debt. Unlike a company that is set up by, let's say, shares. With that, you know that you are in the business to make money. So with that one, the setup is different from churches, even though all these kinds of companies are regulated as entities or companies under the laws of Ghana. Yes. So churches, NGOs, they have a different way of setup because these entities are not set up to make profit. Okay. Even if you see them run a side business, the law looks at it as they are running this business in order to promote their objective. Because NGO's objective is maybe for a particular social benefit, or maybe they are doing something to improve the lives of people. But if the NGO is doing a business on the side, then the idea is that the NGO is running that business in order to get money to promote its objectives of incorporation. Mm-hmm. So basically, these are the various kinds of companies. Okay. Limited by shares, limited by guarantee.
All right. I want to find out, for instance, Rudolph, I want to enter into a partnership with you to start a business. What are the legal things that we have to, what are the legal steps that we have to take? Not to register the business as an entity, mm-hmm. but to protect our investments, okay. such that if one day it goes south, what do we do?
So first of all, if you actually want to partner with somebody to do a particular business, then you have to understand that I always advise that you go into a written agreement. Now, this written agreement would show the kind of entity you want to set up. The fact that I want to partner with you in the sense of the word does not necessarily mean that a partnership, a legal partnership entity would be best suited for what we want to do. So I'll give you an example. Maybe we are just in the business of you supplying me something for me to sell. Then after I sell, I give you the money. If you just go and set up a partnership, a legal partnership entity, that will not be best suited for the kind of scenario I've given. But if you want to set up that partnership entity, then there should be an agreement, a written agreement, which is the partnership agreement, which would indicate how much you are contributing, how much I will get, and which would also indicate our liabilities, our obligations, and which will also indicate certain things like the name we would use. So even certain law firms are set up as partnership businesses. So you see, let's say Rudolph, Poco and Co. That can be a partnership business. Do you get it? Maybe you as partner A, you'd contribute 50% of our capital. Partner B also contributes 50% of the capital. It could be that and in Ghana, the partners can be up to 50. Can have 50 partners forming an entity. Do you get it? So the partnership agreement should have, as I indicated, your contribution of each partner. It should have what each partner is getting, the ratio of the share of the profit or the loss. The partnership agreement should have certain things like the obligations of the partners, and even among the partners, who would be managing the company. Because the fact that you are a partner does not mean that you can manage the company.
It can be a dormant.
Yes, you can have a dormant partner. Someone who is in there only in name. So a named partner. Do you get it? So the agreement covers all these things. And the agreement also covers what the partnership will do, how the partnership will be when one partner leaves. How do we admit other partners? All that would be in the agreement. So if you want to form a legal partnership properly so-called, you should be looking at some of these conversations. But the bottom line is that the fact that someone says let's partner does not mean you should form a legal partnership. That is what I'm trying to put across. Look at the nature of the business you are coming to run. Some of them you don't need that entities, because you see all these legal entities have their regulations, and for those incorporated entities like partnerships and companies, there are strict legal regulations governing them. So for instance, with companies, every financial year, which is the year within which a company actually operates, at the end you would have to file what we call your annual returns. The annual returns will be the statement of the profits or loss that you've made, and on that basis you are taxed. So if you are a person and you're going to establish a company and you don't file your annual returns, it can lead to your company being struck out for failure to comply with the laws. So the kind of vehicle, back to the earlier scenario I gave, the kind of vehicle you choose will determine the rules that will apply to whatever business you are running. If you are running a sole proprietorship, because the company is you and you are a company, if you are paying your taxes, you are paying it from yourself. Do you get it? You are not necessarily paying it based on the company. If maybe I sell 50 and I'm supposed to pay tax on the 50, I pay tax on the 50. But with companies, there are strict requirements. Even the decisions you make are regulated by law. The decisions you make as a company. So for instance, you can't just stand up and say that as a company limited by shares, for instance, I am just transferring shares to somebody. There's a procedure you have to lay down. If that particular decision will affect 70% stake in your company, you have to inform the office of the The Office of the Registrar of Companies, yes. You have to inform by way of filling a form called a Special Resolutions Form and all those things. So with companies, there are a lot of technicalities when it comes to that. But companies also have their advantages. You would have to set up a company if, for instance, you want to go into funding, as you indicated earlier, that certain entities in Nigeria had gotten unicorn funding. Do you get it? They've been able to raise funds to that level. Yes. With that, no person would invest in an individual when it comes to business. That I've given you, Rudolph, $30 million. That's Rudolph. Take it and do your business. There would be trust issues as to whether Rudolph will use it for his personal gain or will use it to promote his business. So if you are out there and you are looking to raising funds, then it's best for you to set up a company.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to find out from you, how often do people get cases like this in the courts?
Oh, I mean, as often as you can imagine.
Can you tell me a story of one of these? A scenario where you had an issue like this. How did they go about it? How did they go?
So yes, there are a lot of issues when it comes to operations of businesses. So just as I said, because companies have strict legal requirements, sometimes some of the cases come about by reason of their non-compliance, and some of them too, it comes about by reason of how a company also entered into an agreement with another person. So there was a case that we dealt with, and I wouldn't want to mention the names, but it had to do with a company that entered into an agreement with another company for that other company to perform a particular service. Now, this company has directors who run the company. One director just goes to agree with the CEO of the other company that, oh, supply us this and we'll pay you on a monthly basis. No written agreement. Now, they supply the stuff and this company A fails to pay. Now, company A is also saying that I didn't know about this agreement. In fact, this director for some time has been expelled. So he goes, agrees with the other company, takes the stuff and uses it for his own personal stuff. He went in the name of the company. So this is one complex thing that can come up in the law courts. Now, in court, in such a situation, because there's a company involved, and in law, the company is a separate person from its people. The company can sue and be sued. So first of all, the suit is not between the director of company A
and company
the
B.
director of company B. It's between the legal entities.
If it's Ejaku Ventures, no, Ejaku and Co.
And Co Limited.
Between
Ejaku
so and so.
And Ejaku and Co. Do you get it? So that was the suit. But here's the case that this particular director from company A went on his own personal accord. There was no written agreement binding company A to that. It becomes a legal complexity. So lawyers have to delve into matters of whether company A is bound to that agreement, because company A as an artificial person would also operate through human beings. Because where is company A? How would we go and hold company A responsible?
The
we have
people.
to hold the people there responsible. Do you get it? And when a director walks up to you that, oh, I'm someone from, let's say, so and so company, do you get it? How would I know whether this person has been expelled? So should I presume that so far as the person gives me something that shows that indeed he's from this person, there is that presumption that everything that is being done internally in that company is regular, and that the third party would not know unless the company brings to the attention of the third party. So some of these are the legal complexities that can come up. So I always tell people, setting up a company is no big deal, but it's a big deal. If you have a setup and you have people who would act in manners as I've indicated, you would find yourself in a lot of legal tussle, because as a company, is an artificial person, but it's run by people. And these people also have obligations. So this director that I'm talking about has an obligation to the company to act in the interest of the company. So the case is still pending in court. The outcome has not come up yet, but the way it's looking, it's going to be more dicey.
Sikanashi. Company B Sikanabeshi. Because, I mean, what proof do you have that they are bound? I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but what proof do you have that they are bound by the agreement? Because if it's a board of directors, that means there needs to be a unanimous agreement
Exactly
to go into that deal. Exactly. But then just one person goes.
Exactly.
And what worsens the situation is that this person has been expelled from the board.
Yes.
Company B, forget.
Yeah, so some of these things are things that can come up. When you are running a company, the law requires that you make decisions by two ways. It's either by an agreement of the board of directors or an agreement of the shareholders. And there are instances where the directors can make specific decisions for the company, and there are certain instances where the decision must be made by the shareholders. So, I mean, some of these complexities would make matters very cumbersome when, obviously it ends up in court. So if you are an entrepreneur and you run a company, you should be very, very mindful of how you actually apply the law and how even the personnel in the company operates, because someone can go and do something that would end up affecting your business.
When businesses start, people don't pay attention to these legalities. Like, maybe the business can just start in your mother's shop or something, and then it grows to become. So in a situation where there is no legal agreement, nothing at all, and then we grow the business, and then there's the business booms, and we decide that, okay, we want to share profits. How do we go about it?
So,
for instance, we started, and now we have about 2 billion Ghana cedis, and you want to take your money away. What do we do?
So, first of all, if there is no written agreement, it will be very difficult for either of you to enforce a particular right that you think you have. You can agree orally, but usually the oral agreement would be your word against my word. There's nothing to show for it, you get it. But the law also sort of comes in where you can establish by way of your conduct, do you get it, that there was a sort of agreement, workable agreement that
I'm interested in that. So in a situation where people do not take any agreements that would give the law the right to enforce that agreement, where there's nothing at all, how does the law step in by its own, as an authority of being the law, to solve issues?
Yeah, so first of all, without an agreement, nothing can be enforced. But an agreement is deduced in a lot of ways. So it's either is written, is oral, or by conduct. So let's say there was no written agreement. I'm saying you invested 20,000. You are saying you invested 30,000. That is an oral agreement, probably. We are deducing it from an oral agreement. But the law can come in by looking at your conduct and the surrounding circumstances to say that, see, this guy has shown evidence that anytime he buys the goods, he informs you. When payments are made, he informs you, he sends you this cut and all that. So from the surrounding circumstances and per your conduct, I can see that there's an agreement between you and the guy to do A, B, C for gains in this manner. Then based on that established contract by agreement, the law comes in to solve the situation.
How much will it cost you to take these legal processes if there's a problem? Is it expensive?
So when there's a legal problem in running businesses, the expense of it is hinged on the kind of dispute resolution you are using.
Okay.
Do you get it? So if
the method.
The method of dispute resolution you are using to solve the problem. So for instance, if you have a problem in your business with another person, simple negotiation can solve it. I mean, in our daily lives, we negotiate. I was supposed to supply you 100 bags of rice. I bought 90, but you've paid for the 100. I can negotiate that, see, I can't refund your money, but I can get you the extra thing. It solves the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need a lawyer to come in. Do you get it? But there are other forms of dispute resolution mechanisms that are complex and also handle complex matters. So, for instance, someone in that same scenario would not, the negotiation would not lead to any definite resolution. The person will not understand and might want to go to court. For a court to, yes, declare that there was an agreement, you breached it, you owe me so and so and to pay. So that is a different kind of dispute resolution. Obviously, if you are going to court, you know that you can go and represent yourself, but sometimes when...
Is it possible?
Everyone can represent themselves in court. You don't necessarily need a lawyer, but you need a lawyer because sometimes if the other party has a lawyer, that lawyer might have knowledge that you don't have and might have a good understanding, appreciation of the legal matters than you, or even the procedure in court.
You don't stand a chance.
Do you get it?
Can a lawyer like you, when you get a case, represent yourself in court?
Yes, I can, but I wouldn't do that if I get a case personally.
Why?
Because it's just like a doctor performing surgery on...
Yes, I remember something. Judas Nemos in Kaswaswa. Is it right? A judge cannot sit in his
own course. That is Nemo Judas in Kosa. So that's the different thing altogether. That's a different thing altogether.
I remember we learned something like that in first year.
That's a different thing. Principles of natural justice. That's a different thing altogether. But I wouldn't do that. If I have a case, I'll look for a lawyer. So, conflict of interest. I can't be very objective with my own case. So it's better another technical person handles it. So
give me a figure. When it comes to these things, how much money can it take out of your pocket? I mean, just an average figure on top of your head.
Very difficult to give you a definite answer on this. As I said, it's hinged on the dispute resolution mechanism you choose. If you want to go to court, you get a lawyer. The lawyer will charge legal fees. The filings you do, you pay for them at the law courts. The transportation to the law courts, back and forth. And I mean, you don't just start a case and the case is done in a week and month. It takes years, sometimes months, sometimes weeks. So you should be ready to bear cost of going back and forth for weeks, for months, and for years.
Is the law expensive?
The law can be expensive. It can't be expensive.
Why is it? Because why? Because I mean, well, everybody maybe so somebody wrongly accuses me of something. I mean, just for the sake of putting things right, you people should help me go scot-free. Or somebody's profession.
Yes, because of a service being rendered to you. Do you get it? You go to a spa and you ask for a massage. You could have opted for maybe your daughter or your son to step on your back.
How much? I mean, you've had cases pertaining to issues like this. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest one when it comes to figures? Maybe when the figures involved, where somebody lost like an amount.
I mean, personally, I think the highest figure I've seen when it comes to a contract sum, I think was about 19 million Ghana cedis.
19 million Ghana cedis?
Yeah, 19 million Ghana cedis. I read a case that was reported that had that figure as someone losing 19 million Ghana cedis. So you can imagine. When I read the case, I realized that such a matter could not be dealt with by mere negotiation. I mean, a third party had to decide on the matter. And this brings me to when you have a situation in your business, right? Or even when you're entering into agreements with people, sometimes the mode of dispute resolution you agree when you have a situation, I mean, when you have a problem or where a problem arises, the mode of resolving that dispute adds to the costs that you would incur when you're actually trying to resolve it. So there are a lot of ways of resolving disputes. I mentioned negotiation earlier, and I mentioned going to court. But persons can also adopt things like mediation or arbitration. Now, mediation is getting a third party to assist both parties negotiate. So the third party is a facilitator. So for instance, company A, company B, just supply thing, 100 bags of rice. Company A says that you didn't supply all, but we've paid everything. If they can't negotiate because of, let's say, the relationship, they can fall on a third party to assist them negotiate. And the third party, when the third party comes, he listens to this person's side, he communicates to this person, ensures that they are all on the same page. And at the end of the day, when they reach an agreement, they put it in writing. And the law in Ghana is that when they reach an agreement, it is binding on the parties. Do you get it?
Yes.
So either one can enforce it. Do you get it? So negotiation, we have mediation, then even arbitration. But arbitration is quite technical.
What's the difference between mediation and arbitration?
So
are they close? Because I feel like they are.
Yes, they have similarities, but they are two different things.
Okay.
Arbitration is just like going to court, but you are going to court not before a judge. You are going to court before, let's say, an expert or a person that both parties have agreed to submit the dispute to. Do you get it? And you are not going to use this rigid principles. You, the parties, you want to adopt the law that you want him to apply to your case.
So it's a step above mediation, but a step below court.
Yes, you can put it like that. Because court is, state sponsored, but with arbitration it is privately sponsored.
What do you mean by state sponsored?
So you don't pay the judge for being on your case. Okay. But with arbitration, you have to pay the arbitrator for being on your case.
Okay.
Do you get it? Yeah. So some people want privacy. Some businesses don't want their matters out there. So when they have disputes, they don't want to go to court. Because anyone can come and sit in the court and listen to your matter. But if you need that privacy, the parties can agree that we want to submit our dispute to arbitration. And the parties select the one to sit on it. You don't do that when you are going to court. You don't choose your judge. Okay. That, hey, I know this judge, or this judge is handsome. I want a handsome guy on my case. No. If you need a handsome guy, you may choose arbitration, because the parties choose their arbiter, the person they want to determine their disputes.
Amazing. So, I want to wrap this up, but we cannot have a lawyer on the 2nd Street Avenue without talking about the current happenings in the country. I don't know when this particular episode is going to come out, and so I am not going to centralize this on what is happening currently, but I would want to broaden it a little bit. I want us to talk about rule of law. Like, if there is no rule of law, then maybe the whole concept of even business law and entrepreneurship and commercial law that won't even work, because if the law is not helped out, is not working, then you can't take your issue to court, because then you don't trust the judicial system. There are a couple of things that is happening in this country. What is your general opinion about rule of law in this country as a lawyer at the moment? Do you feel like people still have trust in the legal system?
Well, I would say that when it comes to rule of law encompasses a lot of things. But basically, as you rightly said, it is about the law actually being applied in the various facets of society. Now, one popular philosopher said that if the law is ruling, then it is God ruling. But if it is man ruling, then it is the beast that is ruling. So if we allow the law to be applied in the society, then it means that there is going to be order, and there's going to be justice, and there's going to be peace and harmony. Do you get it? But I mean, from the question you've asked, so these are the pointers. Is justice being delivered? Is there harmony? Is there peace? Is there order? If we are lacking in some of these respects, then we can say that probably the rule of law is declining, or probably there are instances where we have to do better in terms of the rule of law. Currently in Ghana, I mean, I think people hold different opinions as to whether the rule of law is at its best in Ghana. I think that in certain facets, the law still applies. There are excesses, I must admit, there are excesses of how the law is neglected in certain instances. But I think the general outlook of it, there is room for improvement in terms of the application of law in Ghana. And this I say because of some of the happenings going on, and also how certain persons are being treated, and how certain persons are not given justice, even far from the recent happenings.
So we are about to wrap the conversation up. I think you've shared insightful stuff with us. I'm very grateful to you. I think if there's a young and upcoming entrepreneur coming, somewhere, wherever they find themselves, this should help them. This should help them to know how to go about things, no matter how small their business is.
Yes.
When somebody comes on the Second Street Avenue, I ask them certain rapid fire questions. What's the purpose? Sometimes I just want to know how people, go about some of these things. So the first one that I want to ask you is, what's a hill you die on?
Wow. I think for me, my belief in God. Yes. This is something that will never change. That God exists and I believe in Him.
Interesting. That God exists and you believe in Him. You will never change.
Yes.
All right, that's fine. Secondly, if we give you the biggest billboard in Accra that puts something on it for everybody to see every day, what will you put on it?
An inscription.
Yes.
That you are the change and the change is you.
Explain that. What does that mean?
That for me, I believe that change begins with people. I mean, if you are complaining about a situation and you want it changed, then you must change. You can either change your location, or change your approach to things, or change your mindset towards things. And you are the change you want to see. So everything starts from you. So change is you and you are the change. If you are looking out for change, then look at you. Change yourself, change your perception, change your perspective, and you see the change you are looking out for.
Okay. All right, lastly, when you hear the word successful, right now, as I mentioned successful, who came to mind?
Successful. Ronaldo.
Mention somebody else.
Oh, but
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, he's really successful. Can you imagine someone who is successful as a footballer, successful as a YouTuber, successful as a person on earth?
Yes, I think I agree with you on this. Though I like Messi, but Ronaldo has shown incredible worth ethics in different fields.
Yes.
And is worth emulating. Yes. Sometimes when I'm talking to
as a
people,
model and all that.
Yes, when I'm talking about football, I tell them that I wish God would give me Messi's talent and then give me Ronaldo's work ethics. Yeah. Incredible guy. Yes. Wherever he goes. And the mentality is insane. Yes. Recently I saw him with Rio Ferdinand. I'm saying I saw him as if I was there.
You watched the video?
I watched the video on YouTube. And then he was talking about the mentality in your head. the fact that you don't allow whatever people say to get to you. Like when you score goals, people are going to talk about you. When you don't score, people, like everything is in your head. And I really, really related to that. And that's super. Thank you so much, Poco. I really appreciate you making time to come and share whatever you have shared with us. Finally, before you walk off, do you have any questions for me too?
Questions for you?
Or do you have any advice for us?
Oh, okay. So
apart from we making sure that we sign legal documents so that one day when we get big, so you won't take all the money away. What advice or question do you have for us?
Okay, so I mean, this is a general advice to everyone who is interested in, being an entrepreneur and all that. Know that don't despise your beginning, and don't think that because you are starting small, you should do everything small. You can fall on that friend lawyer for legal advice. We give this legal advice on a daily basis. There are certain things you don't charge for them. So fall on your friend lawyers and all that to assist you as you are starting small, because you never know where your business can get to. And also, don't just do things because you think you are small. You can do things anyhow. No. You think big and you act big, even if you are small. So yes, this is an advice to the entrepreneurs out there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, and we really appreciate it. Guys, once again, my name is Rodolphe Amoafa. I host the end of this incredible podcast. Thank you for watching and listening to this. I hope it helps and gives you some clarity. Stand tall and stand firm. Ciao. I'm out.